I'm your host, John Myers, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody. Gotta have my notes. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked studios. Gotta have my notes. Alternator. Hey, everybody. We have fun. Hey, everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Right here, right now. It's John Myers. We like to give stuff away. Alternator. Post some more pictures. We got to thank Steve and Becky live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't forget Texas Roadhouse right here, right now. Hey, everybody. Don't forget right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. Had a great dinner tonight. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. Had a great dinner tonight. So, hey, everybody. So, housekeeping. Had a great dinner tonight. So, alternator. Housekeeping. Housekeeping. So, Tuesday night. Housekeeping. From the Kicker UnMasked studios. Housekeeping. Right here, right now. Hey, everybody. So, it's John Myers. Hey, everybody. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked studios. Hey, everybody. From the Kicker UnMasked studios. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody.
Right here.
Hey everybody, my name is Jacob Lucky. I'm with the Kicker Tech Force, and tonight we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently. I'm going to be your host, and Aaron's going to be my co-host tonight. But what you guys see in front of me here is a ton of subwoofers. Behind is a ton of subwoofers, and we're going to dig into why we have 16 different lines of them. What are the differences? Why exactly do we have so many? But we've got Steven working the camera. We got Ernie in the back with J-Dub, and Aaron, again, is my co-host. And I'm a little bit repetitive, but I've never done this before. So you guys stick around, and we're going to talk all about this stuff.
It's been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Music is my passion, my livelihood, and it's in my DNA. My pals at Kicker Marine Audio gave me a chance to take the music, what I love and listen to, at home, on stage, and in the car, onto the water. Hi, this is Jason Bonham, and I want to say a big thank you to my friends at Kicker Audio for inspiring the songs and the stories behind the music that inspires America. Go overboard! This is your time.
Hey guys, what's going on? So Aaron and I here, we just got back from doing something the other day here in town that we had the Skills USA contest going on. What did you think of that? Do you think it was pretty fun?
So this is the second time we've participated at the Oklahoma State level. And last year, Jacob and I did this contest. We had, I think, 20 competitors. This year we had 48 competitors. So we've absolutely expanded our reach with Skills USA Oklahoma. And of course, giving away great prizes really, really helps out.
Yeah, it does. And I'm really pleased that the program has grown so much. It's one of my passions, and I really discovered that I like doing this thing and getting more young people into our industry. I say that as a young person, but for me, it's really fun. I know it's going to be really fun for some of these other younger guys. But getting into the meat and the potatoes of the show, I'm going to start out and ask you guys a question, and I want you guys to all respond in the chat, and then we're going to roll with this a little bit later on. But tell us what kind of vehicle you drive in the comments. Give us your year, your make, your model, all that good stuff, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But so what we've got sitting here with us, we have about 16, or really I think we have 14 different subwoofers sitting here with us. 2 of which are going to be end of life that you might still find from some of our local dealers and things like that. But we don't have any here to display since we took them off the R&D shelves. But we're going to talk about some of the differences and why you might choose one subwoofer over another. So the first thing, and some of you guys might know this, some of you guys might not, but I worked in tech support for about 2 years before I became a trainer. And we would get a lot of calls on the phone. A lot of people would ask me, hey, what kind of system do you recommend for me? And so I have kind of like a decision tree, I guess, that I would use mentally to help narrow down for me to answer their question as we ask these kinds of questions. So the first question that I like to ask people is, how far are you trying to go with the subwoofer system? Do you want a ton of bass? Do you want not so much bass? Because everybody has different preferences, right? And the next thing that I would usually ask them is, okay, how much are you willing to spend on this thing?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to recommend something that's like way outside their ballpark and that won't ever be achievable. We try to keep it in that realm of achievable for these guys. And then, then we're going to start asking, like, okay, what kind of vehicle do you have? And that's why I asked you guys what kind of vehicle you have, because we're going to run through a couple different scenarios here, and you guys can see how we kind of make these decisions based on subwoofer recommendations and kind of get a little bit into the weeds with that kind of thing. But all right, so it looks like we've got a couple different answers for us that Jeremy has starred. So Aaron, why don't you read me off whatever they put up on the screen there for us?
So I think Victor Medina has a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Oh, this is easy. Victor, thank you. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So what direction would you go?
Well, so Victor, we're going to make a couple of inferences about you and maybe the kind of things you use your vehicle for. So you're driving a Grand Cherokee. Maybe this guy needs it for the space in the back of the vehicle.
Okay.
Or maybe he just likes a big SUV. But
Sure.
If you were driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee, how much bass do you think you would want in that car?
So I'm a dad, as y'all probably know, and I've got a wife who likes music, but not at the levels that I like it. So if this were my ride, I would go with a shallow subwoofer, and I would do a custom enclosure, a downfiring, similar to our preloaded downfiring enclosures, but I'd use the L7T because that is a lot of cone area in a very small surface, small box, and modest power. So that's the direction I would go personally.
Yeah. So maybe you're a customer that you don't want to take up too much space.
Yep.
Just like you said, you've got to carry, maybe a stroller, maybe your kid plays sports, you've got some baseballs or some golf clubs or something you carry around. But maybe you also don't know what you're looking for yet.
Sure.
So you're coming, you're asking for a recommendation. So, all right, you're not wanting to take up a whole ton of space. So that automatically narrows us down. We don't want to use this guy, right? Because we're going to need a big box that's going to take up a ton of space. Maybe we don't want to use any of our full-size subwoofers. We might be looking at something small like a L7T or a Comp RT to really help them maximize that usable space. But my next question is, what does your budget look like?
Well, I do got to put a daughter through college at some point. Got to go through high school and then college. Mm-hmm. So I would say I'm going to dedicate amp, subs, install, everything. I'm going to dedicate $1,500.
$1,500. Okay, cool. So that gives us a little bit more to work with. So now my brain is kind of thinking maybe like a like a CXA 800.1, great bulletproof, reliable amplifier,
It's-
but that gives us plenty of power to use with whatever kind of enclosure we want to go with at that point. So we could use, like you said, a downfiring enclosure, maybe something that is wired at 4 ohms. Maybe we can have like a, I don't know, we're wanting to do a custom enclosure, so maybe we build it on the side of the trunk
Yeah.
or something out of the way with a Comp RT driver. Of course, that could get a little bit pricey, so maybe we're just looking at something simple with MDF, but you probably want good quality bass, but you want the ability to turn it up and down, so we're going to use a bass knob, all that good stuff. And so yeah, ultimately, that's kind of our choice. But really what we're looking at is the customer's expectations, and we're kind of matching our products with their expectations. So in this case, we wanted to use something thin because they don't have a lot of space. And because that narrows down our driver choice, we need to use an amplifier with less power. So, so now let's take it to the other extreme, right? So Aaron, I have a, let's say a 2014, let's see if we have any SUVs in the chat. 2004 Chevy Tahoe from Eric N. right there near the bottom. Actually, scroll down. Yeah, there you go. So we've got a 2004 Chevy Tahoe, right? So this might be a vehicle that I've purchased that I want to go crazy in. I bought this vehicle specifically because it has a ton of airspace, but I have a 2004 Chevy Tahoe, and I want as much bass as I can get. What are you going to recommend?
Well, let's talk budget first, because I've already got some things in mind. So I need to narrow down the options in my own mind based on your budget. So what are you thinking about money-wise?
I've set aside, let's say, $10,000 that I just want to go crazy. This is my dream car. I want a really loud audio system. I got 10 grand.
Okay.
What can we do with that?
Wow. Well, I'm going to go straight to Solo X.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the obvious choice,
yes.
right?
And then we're going to figure out, so Jacob, do I have license to use all of the space behind the second row? Or do you need something for groceries or the dog behind the second row?
Well, let's say my grocery getter is like a 2011 Toyota Camry or something. So,
Okay.
So I've got a grocery getter, but this is my fun vehicle. And I don't need any of the space. I don't need anything. All I need is a driver's seat so I can get it around.
All right, then we're taking up all of it.
Yeah.
Let's do 15s.
15s, what do you
Solo
think?
X 15s?
How many should I do?
I think you should do all of them.
4 15s in a wall?
4 15s,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Why not? So why didn't we recommend like an L7S or a Comp R or maybe a Comp C for that kind of situation?
Well, you know, the quad box is really impressive. But if I've got 10 grand to spend, then I'm going to go straight to the best of the best, Solo X. And I've got the airspace. And I've got a pretty substantial alternator under the hood.
Cool. Yeah, so as you guys can see, there's kind of like, well, there is a lot of stuff to take into consideration when you're designing an audio system. And when you have a company that is like Kicker, and we, you know, we're one of the largest audio companies for vehicles out there, and we try and hit everybody that we can. We try and sell as many products to as many people as we can. You've got to have a lot of different subwoofers to meet all of those different requirements for all these different customers.
Right.
I mean, you imagine how many people in the United States have cars that they drive, right? And now imagine all of those people that have different tastes in music, and they have different expectations of their audio system, and you know, you've got to kind of hit all of those different sections of that crowd, or you know, of that market, right? So we've got everything starting from like our entry-level competition subwoofers back here, all the way up to the big bad boy, the Solo X. But we're going to start kind of at the beginning of the line and work our way up, and we're going to talk about all of the differences that we have going from start to finish. So the regular Comp subwoofer with the white stitching, this is our entry-level subwoofer that John's pointing at here for you guys. And what's really cool about this subwoofer is that Kicker has been in business for 50 years, or 51 years now, I think, right?
Yeah.
We just had our 50th last year. But we've been making car audio, like subwoofers and things like that, since I want to say like the 80s, like the early 80s, or anyway. So this subwoofer's kind of been around with us since the beginning, but as we've developed new models of subwoofers, and our engineers have come up with different technologies that we can include in our subwoofers. Maybe we discover a way that works a little bit better than other ways. That tech trickles down from the top line subwoofers and gets implemented into the regular competition subwoofers. So this subwoofer, you'll see lots of things on it, like a ribbed surround. That was one of the things we came up with. It's got a bumped back plate for increased excursion, perimeter vent cooling, and all sorts of good stuff that we discovered on our other lines of subwoofers. But what's really neat about these is that when we implement those changes, it's usually at no cost increase to you guys. So if you take like a comp subwoofer from like the year 2000 and compare it to the current comp subwoofer, it's going to be a much better product for minimal increase in price. So the next one that I want to talk to you guys about is our Comp C, and this is an upgraded version of that comp, kind of. So there are a lot of different things going on with the subwoofer. The most pressing one is the increased power handling. So this subwoofer has about double the power handling of the white stitching comps. It's also got a larger surround, it's got more excursion, and a couple other features like forced air cooling on the back to allow that subwoofer to run much more cool in everyday operation. But it is a step-up subwoofer, so you're going to get more excursion, more output with it, and more power handling.
Hey, Jacob, quick question.
Yeah.
Someone asked me not too long ago, does forced air cooling increase the power handling on the box, on the number on the box? Does it change that?
No, it doesn't. Really what the forced air cooling does, it does increase power handling as far as like your thermal capacity, but it doesn't increase the number on the box necessarily. We introduced it to increase the reliability of the subwoofers. So when you're running like a clipped signal into that sub, your coil's going to get hot and you can burn it up. Forced air cooling helps to prevent that. So, excuse me, we had Chipotle for dinner. It's kind of, but anyway, so that forced air cooling increases reliability and it decreases the amount of returns that we have from like consumers and stuff like that. So no, it won't increase the number, but.
Fun story, when we were developing the Solo X, which you all now know and love, we went through different versions of forced air cooling. Just the number of vents, the location of the vents, a lot of different aspects of that forced air cooling were tried. And the final version reduces heat of the motor structure by greater than 20%, which at those power levels is huge. And that's simply, as you said, it makes it more reliable for longer.
Yeah, exactly. So once we get up past the Comp C, well, first, we have a marine subwoofer here, and it's kind of based off of the Comp C, but when you're thinking different types of subwoofers, some of you guys might not think marine audio, but we got to have one for those boat guys, and it's got to be completely different than anything else we make. So some of the stuff that you'll notice with this one is that the basket is made out of a composite material. So for those guys that are exposing it to like salt water and UV rays and stuff like that, that basket is not going to deteriorate. It's not going to corrode like cast aluminum or cast iron would with, with that salt spray. A couple other things. The motor structure is sealed. The terminals where you connect your wires to are ignition protected, which we talked about that on one of the other Unmasked shows recently. But what that means is that your fire's not going to spread if there's a spark from the terminals on that subwoofer. The cone is what we call co-molded to the surround, so you're not going to see any stitching or anything or any glue holding that together. They're actually molded together in the production process. So there is literally no room for water to squeeze in between those and get to the electronics inside the subwoofer. And that's pretty much what's the difference is with the marine subwoofers versus the car stereo.
How about free air? Let's talk about that just a second.
Yeah, so one of the subs you guys don't see sitting here is the free air version of the marine subwoofer, and I'm glad you asked about that, Aaron. Why don't you tell these guys what the difference is?
So free air was very, very common years and years ago, back before we had subwoofers that could handle a lot of power in small sealed enclosures. And free air has some real benefits where you can use the airspace in a car application. You can use the air in the trunk as the enclosure. So as long as the front of the woofer is completely sealed from the back of the woofer, they're not interacting with one another, then you can use the chamber behind the woofer as the enclosure. And there's some advantages to this. Sonically, they sound fantastic. There's a lot of transient response for the woofer. The woofer's allowed to move freely, and it just plays low, deep, smooth bass sound. You also don't need a whole lot of power. In fact, the Comp C line of subwoofers can be used in freer applications as long as you use half the RMS power and a properly set subsonic filter. A subsonic filter is basically filtering out the lower frequencies, like 40 hertz. So basically the subsonic filter is protecting the woofer from over excursion with those really low frequencies. So when you have that condition with a Comp C woofer, it'll work beautifully. But in a boat application, we use a lot of free air woofers because we're using the storage spaces as the enclosure for those woofers. And so that woofer has a stiffer suspension. The spider's a little bit tighter, so it helps to reduce cone motion without having the back pressure of the enclosure. So that's really essentially what we're talking about.
Yeah, so thanks for that breakdown, Aaron. So we've got a free air version of the marine subwoofer where it's really designed to be used in, like, on boats you'll have compartments that you use to store like life jackets and stuff like that. And what you'll do is you'll cut a hole in the front of the compartment and mount that subwoofer into it. That way you don't have to have a box on a boat taking up space. You can use the compartment kind of as your enclosure, but the free air subwoofer is best used in that situation. And then, like Aaron said, Comp Cs can be used free air, just 1.5 power handling. And really that's true for all of our subwoofers, because when they're in a box, that enclosure increases the mechanical power handling of the subwoofer. Because it kind of reduces the excursion in a sense. But yeah, so you could take like an X if you wanted to, not recommending it, but if you were going to run it free air, you'd do like 1,000 watts RMS on it.
So John actually tells me that you love cutting small holes in fiberglass. Is that true?
Oh, dude, it sucks. Yeah, so I'm like the safety guy, right, when I'm doing this stuff. When I'm cutting fiberglass, I want to have like a mask on and glasses and wear like, when we were working on Scott's boat in North Carolina, I didn't want to get fiberglass in my skin. So we got a huge clear tarp and I poked a little, like cut a slit in it and put my head through it so I wouldn't get fiberglass on myself, on my clothes, my arms when I was cutting holes in the ceiling of the boat. So yeah, cutting fiberglass sucks. Funny story, when I first started this job, John and I were working on a boat and I got COVID the second day that we were working on it. So I was out, until the boat was finished. So,
miraculously.
I was really sick. It sucked, but yeah, I hate cutting fiberglass. So free air subs, not for me. I'll build a box. But I think we had a question from 25 Hertz a minute ago about the marine subwoofer. Question, since some kicker subs don't have stitching, does it pose a difference in comparison to stitched subs? Really good question, man. So not so much anymore, but the reason we started adding stitching to our subwoofers was way back in the day. Some of you guys might remember, but our subwoofers were made with like just glue holding the surround to the cone. And in some cases, that glue was letting loose. So one thing that we did was we literally stitched the surround to the cone while still using glue so that the surround wouldn't come loose from the cone anymore. And that was like the really early days, probably before I was born. But we kind of keep it on all of our subwoofers now. It's not necessary, but it's still a nice like visual touch for the subwoofers. And it's like a quality thing, I guess. Particularly the difference between the stitching on these and the lack of stitching on the marine cones is every time you take and you poke a hole through the cone for stitching to go through, you're making another hole for water to leach through and get to the inside of the cone. So on the marine one, they're like chemically bonded together and co-molded so that water can't get behind that surround, in between the surround and the cone. So that's the main difference today. It's not so much required anymore for like structural capability, but yeah, there you go.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. So next we're going to move up to like the Comp VR and the Comp R subwoofers. So the Comp VR was introduced we had the competition subwoofer for a while, and then amplifiers started coming out with more and more power capabilities, more power output. And so we needed to catch up to the industry and design a subwoofer that could handle more power. So ultimately what we came up with was the Comp VR. This subwoofer still includes a lot of the features that the regular Comp had, are actually probably introduced on this model and trickled down to the Comp subwoofer. But this subwoofer has been like a staple of our line. A lot of people love how they sound, and they've been using them for forever. So we still offer it. And then what we have next is the Comp R subwoofer. And this one is a little bit different. It is a newer design, but visually you can immediately tell the difference because it doesn't have that bumped out cone look to it. But Aaron, why don't you tell them some of the differences between the Comp R and the Comp VR subwoofer?
So when I was young, before you were born, the CVR was among the world's most favorite subwoofers. And I was in the retail world back then, and we didn't sell Kicker at my store. And so people would come in asking for the CVR, and I said, well, I don't actually have that one, but I've got this and this and this and this. No, man, I want the CVRs. And so it was iconic, and it was, like I said, one of the best-selling woofers in the world. So when it comes time to refresh and update an iconic woofer, you gotta be really, really careful, because you wanna take everything that made it fantastic and a world favorite, but build on it to make something better. So we have obviously updated the cone. This is a similar cone material, but now it is a single cone instead of a two-piece cone. We call it the solo cone technology. It does have more excursion, so we've got a taller surround that allows for more movement, which of course means more bass. In addition, the motor structure is updated. This was, I want to say, the second production woofer to offer forced air cooling. We have since added forced air cooling to this Comp VR, the CVR. So you're now getting that technology. As you said earlier, it trickles down to the less expensive drivers. Sonically, if you listen to these A/B, it is my opinion that this is a deeper, smoother sounding driver. So the CVR has that real kicker bump, the one that you know and love. Well, we wanted to change the sonic characteristics just a little bit. So in the same exact enclosure, same amp, same everything, this woofer is going to play a little bit deeper and a little bit smoother. So it is a sonically different woofer. I would say I prefer it better, but that's just because my musical tastes have changed in my elder years.
Yeah, I'd love to give Aaron some, I like to tease him about his musical taste because in his office he's listening to this, like, I don't know, I think he goes on YouTube and Googles like peaceful rain trickling behind classical music or something, lowest volume possible, and like it's just hilarious. And then when we go in the car, sometimes he's listening to like podcasts or something, like a lot of spoken word. And I don't think I've ever heard this guy listen to like, real music.
Hey, we were just listening to Rush at obscene levels right here in the studio. So side note, Ernie has been working on the studio audio system. And for those of you that have never been here, we have 4 of the original Solo X 18s loaded in those 2 corners back there. And we've got, I think, 8,000 watts RMS powering them. This room is one of the best sounding concert halls you've never got to hear. It's incredible, and it hasn't sounded this good ever. And Ernie's been tuning it, and it is fantastic. So yeah, Rush, I love some YYZ.
Yeah, well, funny, Ernie was playing us YYZ, and I walked up to him and I said, hey, we just flew in and out of that airport on when we went up to the CMA show. Like, what was that? Was that last week?
Yeah.
My brain is. But yeah, so those are some of the differences between like the Comp R and the Comp VR. But now I want to talk to you guys about our thin mount subwoofers. And we have a couple of different offerings as far as thin mount stuff.
Sorry.
I hope you guys got a lot of that sound right there. I bet that was a treat to your eardrums. But we've got Comp RT, Comp VT, and the L7T subwoofers. So it's kind of the same story. We started getting a demand for a thin mount subwoofer at one point in time, and so our response to that was to design the Comp VT subwoofer. So a lot of the things that, what did you say it was, a bumped top plate on, or is that the Comp? RT.
So yeah, actually that's a really good difference to talk about. So if you look at the backside of the VT, which I like to say is very thin, so the Comp VT was our first thin, shallow subwoofer, the VT very thin. And it does use the deep bumped back plate like we've been using in our Comp series woofers for many, many years. However, when the engineers were challenged to give us more output, more excursion capability, without making the woofer any deeper, they actually made it shallower by doing a deep bumped top plate. So you can't see it here, of course, because the top plate is hidden behind the motor structure, the magnet cover here. So instead of having the deep bumped back plate, the top plate is bumped. So that makes the woofer shallower and still gives us more excursion, which of course means more bass, as well as greater power handling. So this woofer is absolutely superior in terms of performance and sound quality, but the world still buys a whole bunch of Comp VTs, so we keep it around.
Yeah, some people, I've seen some guys in the comments say the VTs sound incredible. Some guys prefer the sound of a VT over an RT and vice versa. So once again, it comes down to that personal preference for the end user as to why we have some differences there. One thing I want to point out too about the VT versus the RT is that the VT actually comes with a plate in the box, which is kind of cool. So if you're installing the VT and you still need like 3/4 of an inch of mounting depth that just won't quite fit, you can cut a hole out in the back of your box and screw that plate down over the hole, and it's got a foam gasket on the back that seals up to that hole. So you've just given yourself 3/4 of an inch further mounting depth, but you're still sealing up that hole with that plate. So it's still a pretty thin driver. It just does it in a little bit of a different way than the RT does. And as I'm messing with this thing here and moving it around, the magnets are like yanking it around on me. So that Solo X just tried to grab it out of my hand.
Hey, we kind of skipped over this guy.
Yeah, so the Comp Gold, and this is kind of an odd case for us. But the Comp Gold is based off of the Comp R subwoofer, but it's got some pretty substantial changes to it too. So you guys notice it's designed after the classic Comp Gold letter subwoofers. So we decided to emulate that look with that stippled cone and dust cap. We got rid of those rugged looking lines on the Comp R for this guy, but we also introduced that gold kind of original sticker on the backside. And it also has some gold plated push terminals as well, which is pretty neat in my opinion. But really this is for that guy that wants like nostalgia value, but still wants a great sounding subwoofer. And just like Aaron said earlier, it's my opinion, but I think this subwoofer sounds a little bit smoother and has better transient response than the Comp R that it's based off of. So I'm not sure why that is, but it might be the cone difference or something like that. But again, different customer for this. It's for that guy that loved his gold letter subs back in the day and wants to get into something newer, but still keep that retro look to it. What do we got next? Let's see, we covered all of this.
Let's go to CVX.
Yeah, absolutely. So
here it is.
Yeah, I thought, okay. So stepping up from our red line is, which, by the way, guys, I forgot to cover this. We've got 3 different kind of lines of product. We have our yellow line, which is like an entry level, and that's going to be our Comp and Comp C subwoofers. Then we have our red line, which is our upper mid-level subwoofer, and that includes like the L7Ts, the, we forgot the L7R.
Oh. Should we jump?
Yeah, let's do the CVX so that you don't have to lift it twice. But our red line is like all of our upper mid-level stuff. And then we have our blue line, which is going to be our CVX, our Comp Q, and until recently, our 41 L7 subwoofers. But our blue line is going to be characterized by like the most power handling, the highest output, and best, I think, bang for your buck on these guys. But anyway, the CVX, again, we got demand for even more power handling than the Comp VR or the CVR, and so the CVX is what we had come up with. And differences, I think, are something like a larger voice coil for more power handling. You see a lot of similar things from the CVR, like perimeter venting and stuff like that, but we added our forced air cooling on this guy to help with reliability and to give it more power handling as well. But this dude loves to handle a lot of power, it makes a ton of output, and it's a very, very sensitive subwoofer while still handling a ton of power. So for that guy that wants as much output as he can, CVX is one of the subwoofers you're going to recommend to him. And again, a lot of people like that sound of the CVX compared to some other stuff. Aaron, you have something to add?
Yeah, part of the history of the CVX, it actually came out after the L7. So we introduced square subwoofers, and of course the world loved them. And there were people who said, you know what, I really love that square woofer, but I've got this rad custom box that's got round holes in it. And I cannot cut it out to make it square. So we came up with essentially a round L7 using the same motor structure, the same strength, all the technology we put into the square subwoofers in a round package. And that's really where the demand came from. So we often say that if you want the power and performance of the L7S, but you've got a round hole, CVX.
Mm-hmm. So that brings up another point, which we have not talked about yet, but square subwoofers versus round subwoofers. So we've talked about a lot of the round stuff and the thin mount L7T, but a square subwoofer is characterized by a square cone. But what that means is that you're going to get about 20% more surface area on the cone compared to a round woofer of a comparable size. So you're getting more output from a square woofer than you would in than a round subwoofer in the same box, just simply because that cone is moving more air. But if you have multiple square subs, that allows you to take advantage of all the airspace you have available because they couple better and you make a more efficient use of all that space that you have on the face of the enclosure. But a square subwoofers, you guys know, we're Kicker. We got to have a square version of everything that we make. So we've got a square, you guys maybe might remember the L5s. They were kind of a square version, like a lesser version of the L7S. We have an L7R now, which is a new subwoofer, totally redesigned, but it fits right in that red line. So for those guys that wanted the performance of a square driver, but you wanted something a little bit cheaper and you didn't want to buy the L7S, now we have the L7R, and it's one of our most efficient subwoofers. It's got pretty good power handling, but we use it in our quad box, which is, I don't personally know of anybody that makes a larger prefab enclosure than the quad box or one that uses more subs, but that thing sounds incredible. The subwoofers sound good, and they've got a ton of output because they're square.
Another reason to look at the red line versus the blue line is amplifier. If you don't have the charging system, you don't have the electrical system, you don't have the amplifier to power an L7S, well, an L7R will give you very close to the same level of performance, but with less power. So that's another way to look at it when you're choosing your system. Well, you've got that Tahoe, plenty of alternator. Well, maybe you've got the Honda, not plenty of alternator. So perhaps you need to go with a more efficient amplifier, less power, and a subwoofer that is designed for that power handling.
Yeah, great point. I see somebody in the chat that says, how about a diamond-shaped subwoofer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, speaking of which, we've been ignoring a lot of our questions. We should probably take a few
let's
questions.
catch up on those real quick. Good call,
I'm going to grab
Aaron.
my water too. Hold on.
Yeah, go for it. Can you answer this question for me? I've bought one Kicker L7T with the 750 RMS amp at 2 ohms and my woofer went out. I bought another one and the same thing. So, Victor, it sounds like your amp makes a little bit more power than the L7T subwoofer is rated for, but really the woofer should be fine with that amount of power as long as it's a clean signal. When I worked in tech support, oftentimes I got this call and what it came down to is the way that the amplifier was tuned. A lot of times the gain was turned up too high and you were getting what we call a clipped signal or distorted output, or maybe the bass boost was turned all the way up after the gain was set. And again, you'll get a clipped signal with that. But with a clipped signal, it translates directly into heat in your voice coil. So it could be why you're burning up subwoofers. So what I would suggest is looking up a good tutorial online as to how to set your amplifier with a tool like a multimeter or an O-scope if you have an O-scope available. If not, you can do some math and figure out what kind of voltage you should be seeing from your amplifier playing a sine wave, and use your multimeter to kind of guesstimate where your gain needs to be set. Good question.
Let me show them on kicker.com. Hey, Ernie, would you pull up my laptop? I want to show this gentleman. We have a gain setting paper here, document that you can use. This is a tech brief. This is pretty technical.
How'd you get there, Aaron? How'd we get there?
Oh, it's not working. Okay, so.
Well, anyway, we'll just tell you guys where it is so you can check it out. For some reason, it's not getting pulled up. But you go to kicker.com/tech-papers, or you can find the drop down under support and tech.
There it is.
And then if you scroll down, we've got all of these resources for you guys that you're able to use, like how to set your gain, stuff like that. You've got box designs, crossovers, gain setting, all the different kinds of things that you guys could possibly need to know about car stereo. We pretty much have it on our website.
Speaking of which, the Skills USA event last week, part of the competition was to set a gain on an amplifier using a test tone and a multimeter. And this is probably the easiest way. Now, let me back up. This only works with amplifiers that make rated power for real. So if you've got one of the amplifiers that, it's this big and it was $1.99 and it says 10,000 watts, don't do this method of gain setting because you're going to blow some stuff up.
Yeah.
But with reputable amplifiers, if you know the voltage that you're looking for at the impedance, then you can simply set the gain using a multimeter set to AC volts with a test tone, and you can dial it in perfectly every time, and that will absolutely minimize the amount of distortion, clipping, blowing up subwoofers.
Yeah, thanks for the add-in. Let's knock out some more of those questions. What is the reason for the subline names? C, VR, R, VX? Excellent question. So this is probably my favorite question to answer because it's way more simple than you think. So for example, the comp, we're going to take like our base comp subwoofer. And so the part number is 43C104. 43 for the production year that it was designed in, or the 43rd year that we've been in business. C stands for comp. 10 is the size, and 4 is the voice coil impedance. So let's take a look at another one. Let's do the L7T. And I think this guy is the 48. Is it a 48 or is it a 46?
I can never remember.
48 L7T, we're going to call it that. 48, again, the production year, 48th year in business. L7, because an L and a 7 put together look like a square. T for thin, 102. It's a 10-inch 2-ohm subwoofer. And that pretty much applies for all of our subwoofers. The comp RT is the comp really thin. The comp VT is the comp very thin. Stuff like that. It's really like, it's kind of fun the way that we come up with these things. But yeah, good question. What do we have next? When are we getting a 3-way component set? I'm glad you asked because we have one.
Let me go grab it.
It's the 48 KSS 269, or no, excuse me, 6. I can't remember the part.
Don't worry about it. I got
it. So it comes with a 1-inch tweeter or 3/4-inch tweeter, a 2 3/4-inch driver for your dash speaker locations, and either a 6x9 or a 6.5 for your door speaker. So comes with all the adapter brackets you need to get it installed. You have 3 different brackets for your 2 3/4 in the dash. It even has a 3.5-inch adapter, so if your car had 3.5-inch, you can pop it in there. Adapter brackets for the 6.5 and the 6x9, and all of the mounting options for your tweeters, like pod, flush, angle mount, etc. Passive crossovers, also in the box. They're in line,
yes,
so that you don't have to hide them. But great question. We do have a 3-way component set now. Does Kicker have any plans to make an 8-inch marine sub free air? Great question, Scott. Hey, Scott, by the way, thanks for taking me to Niagara Falls. Thanks for tuning in to the show as well.
You're the guy that tried to break my buddy? You're the guy that tried to break my buddy?
Yeah, that's Scott.
Tell the story.
Stay tuned on your question, Scott. But yeah, so we're at CMA Expo, and we go to the industry party. After the industry party, me and Scott and his installer, we met up, and he's like, hey, have you ever seen Niagara Falls? I'm like, no. can we go? And he's like, yeah, it's about an hour and a half away. And we're like looking at the clock and it's like 11 p.m. and his installer's like, I want to go to bed. And I'm like, I want to go see Niagara Falls. And you're coming too. So we forced his installer to come with us. We drive an hour and a half to Niagara Falls, an hour and a half back. And we make it back at like 3 in the morning, and I've got a training to do at 10, but I was there for the training, and I did a great job at the training, so it was all cool. And thanks again, Scott. But good question, man. Stay tuned on that.
Next question.
Let's do another question. What year did the Comp R line start from Phi Mobile Sounds? 40. It's a 40.
Is it a 40? Okay.
Yeah, so the Comp R started in the 40th year, which
10 years ago.
Was 10 years ago, so
11 years ago.
11.
Whoa.
When was that? Let me do some math. 2013? Yeah, 2013 Comp R, and that was the first version that we had the switches on the side for the adjustable voice coil impedance.
That's right.
But yeah, 2013 is your answer on that one. And let's do one more. Is the Gold Kicker competition an SQ sub? Yes, it is. It sounds great, man. We listened to it in our listening lab and compared it side by side with the Comp R. And in that listening environment, which is like the perfect listening environment, it sounded really good. I liked how it sounded. I would use it for an SQ build. I've got the Comp Qs personally in my truck, and I think they sound incredible. But the Comp Gold is a close second to how the Comp Qs sound.
So I want to add too that last year, when we twice a year we bring in some of our top retail partners from around the country and Canada too, and we do a lot of listening demos as well as some training and stuff like that. And last year we were using the Comp Gold 15 in the listening lab, and we paired it with our KMTC marine speakers. And it plays loud and low and smooth. Definitely a good sounding woofer. Now, of course, you can tune it for more bump. You can change the box specs, change the tuning frequency, change your crossover, do some equalization. You can make it sound like you want it to sound, but by its very nature, it is low and smooth.
Yep, absolutely. Where did we leave off? We leave off on the Comp Qs?
So we did CVX, so we haven't really done L7.
Yeah, L7 and Comp. Okay, great. Yeah, so the L7, which, funny story about how the L7 was developed, but it all started with Steve wanting to make a square subwoofer because it has more surface area and more output. But you might know the story better than I do about how this was all designed, right? I know that we spent a lot of time on the corners when we were developing them because we weren't sure how many like ribs to have. We weren't sure if they wanted to be dimpled or, you know, sticking out from the surround like that. But we have a prototype version of the L7 in the museum, and they've got like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. They have different numbers of ribs on each one of the corners. And it's interesting to see that they were literally just like trial and error experimenting with the subwoofer to see what worked best and what prevented tearing as that subwoofer was moving. But yeah, this is our like, until we had this, the L7X come out, this was our highest output subwoofer. Handled 750 watts RMS on the 12, ton of power handling, ton of output, works great in a big ported box. And they're highly, highly efficient subwoofers. So for somebody who just wants a ton of bass, you get the L7. That square cone moves a bunch more air than the round. And then we have our Comp Q subwoofers.
L7Q, side note, L7Q is still available at some of our retail partners. It's not on our website because we don't have any more. So once they're gone, they're gone. So if you are looking for the most powerful non-Solo X square woofer, that would be the Comp Q, or excuse me, the
41 L7.
41 L7. Yeah, that's the Q series. So that actually is a step up from the L7S. If you can find them, grab them. Now, sorry, continue on.
And that subwoofer is interesting because it's a little bit different than the L7S, not just in power handling, but it's kind of similar to the Comp Q in the sense that it was a sound quality oriented L7.
Yeah.
But it still handled a ton of power, so it was kind of the best of both worlds for a while. But our Comp Q is going to be our ultimate sound quality subwoofer. Now, it's just got a really stiff suspension for like great transient response. handles a lot of power. We added forced air cooling to that as well once we discovered that it worked on everything that we make. But yeah, the Comp Q is just, it's my personal favorite subwoofer out of anything we make. I think it sounds the best. I've got 2 of them in my truck in sealed boxes. They sound amazing.
Yes, it does.
And
how much power you got on them?
1,800 watts RMS on 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I'm overpowering them just a little bit, but they take it all day, and I don't usually go crazy with it. I've got the base at like halfway most of the time anyway. So anyway, I'm going down a rabbit trail. But
Comp Q.
yeah, but ultimately, what we're leading up to at the top of our line with the most power handling and just everything else is the L7X. And this subwoofer is kind of a culmination of all of the technology that Kicker has ever implemented, anything that we've ever liked on our subwoofers, and a lot of new stuff we implemented on this as well. But some of you guys might have noticed that SPL loud system crowd is kind of becoming more popular again. It was really big back in the 90s, and now it's on a pretty sharp incline up. So we were, thinking, well, we got to have something to break into that market again. You know, we had the old Solo X, but we don't make them anymore. We don't have any recone kits for them. We need something new. So we designed this from the ground up, and it is the biggest, baddest subwoofer that we make. And that's going to be for the guy that just wants as much bass as possible, is not concerned with how much power he's taken, or maybe he is because he's already got this 2 300 amp alternators and he doesn't want to add anything else, but yeah, that's what these guys are. They're just for those absolute crazy bass heads that want a ton of bass, and they sound really good too. I've built a couple of boxes with them in the past, and they sound really great.
You and John did the sealed boxes, which we don't recommend.
Yeah. Well, John, he's always pushing the envelope on everything.
John. Yeah, he's here.
But yeah, we did a sealed box with them, and they played really well. We did it in the back of a 76 Caprice wagon, I think it was.
Wagon.
It's like this deep green color. The guy took all the trim and plated it in literal gold. Yeah, gorgeous car. Subs sounded great. But one other thing that we haven't yet touched on is we still have some different sublines because we have different lines of distribution, right?
That's true.
You want to touch on that, Aaron?
Yeah, so some people will ask us during a training, well, if the Comp R is the latest and greatest version of the Comp VR, CVR, why does the CVR still exist? Well, if people still want to buy the CVR, we still want to sell it to them. So as long as there's still demand for that subwoofer, there's no reason for us to end of life it or to kill it off. So we can sell the latest and greatest technology next to something that's a little bit older. It's also a little bit cheaper price point, and there's still demand for both of them. In addition, we have different channels of distribution. For example, a lot of guys will go into a Walmart store, you're picking up some underwear and some some mayonnaise, and you say, hey, there's a Kicker subwoofer there. Well, the Kicker subwoofer that's available at Walmart is designed and engineered by the same team of engineers that makes Solo X. So you're still getting a true Kicker subwoofer. It's just in a different channel of distribution. I once read a statistic, 800,000 people per day shop in a Walmart. The vast majority of those folks have never heard of Kicker. Well, now they have an opportunity to learn about Kicker because it's available in the Walmart. So they go, oh my gosh, that's great. So they buy it, they have a great experience. They say, you know what, I'm ready for the next level. What's the next level? Then they go to a specialty retail partner, or maybe they go online, do some research. Maybe they join Kicker Club, and they learn about the latest and greatest technology. So there's different channels of distribution. That's one of the reasons we have so many different woofers.
Yep, exactly right. So we're gonna move on to the next little section of the show that we got for you guys, and we touched on it earlier, but it's gonna be about Skills USA. And if you guys don't know me, Skills USA is one of the things that I'm really passionate about here at Kicker, and we get to basically introduce trade school students into car stereo. There's a whole program that's the Mobile Electronics program for Skills USA, and they learn everything from like wiring relays to soldering skills and wiring up subwoofers. And this year we introduced a new thing for them to test on, which is an amplifier tuning station. and we are teaching them how to set up and tune an amplifier properly with the use of a multimeter. And this year we just did our local competition here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we got a lot of pictures for you guys. Ernie, if you want to pull up Aaron's laptop here, sound like Joe Rogan, and Jamie, pull it up. But there you see John, Chase, and I were standing with the amplifier tuning rigs, and this was the first year that we did the amp tuning rigs. So we're still learning. We still have some things to tweak, but what you guys see there is a radio with an amp, fuse, and all the speakers you need to get that thing hooked up. And that battery underneath is pretty neat. I took and put like an Amazon 12-volt power supply inside of a battery case, so that way it's much lighter and you only have power coming from it when it's actually plugged in. Yeah, it's super fun. We got to teach the kids a lot of things. We had a little breakout session with them afterward and kind of helped them, because a lot of these guys had no experience whatsoever with tuning amplifiers. There's Peter, Stephanie, and Steven, the guy working the cameras. He's standing with one of our subwoofer wiring rigs, and that's to teach them to basically wire to different configurations. So on their sheet, they'll have something that says wire 2 subwoofers to a 1 ohm load. So you're going to wire all the coils in parallel to achieve that. Or you're going to wire 1 subwoofer to a 2 ohm load. You're going to wire that sub in parallel to achieve that, and so on and so forth. So it was a lot of fun. It was great to see how our rigs work in the real world. And next month, Aaron and I are going to be going to Atlanta to go to the national competition. Or is it next month or in 2 months?
It's in June.
June.
Yeah, don't
okay.
rush it, please.
Yeah. But we're going to go with Scott Dilbeck. Some of you guys might know Scott, and several other industry people to go judge this competition and make sure it's the best experience that these students are going to have. But ultimately, our goal is to get more installers into the industry. And if you guys are passionate about car stereo, maybe you guys have a shop in some state, I encourage you to reach out to your state directors for Skills USA and get involved, because this is how you guys are going to build that passion in the younger audience. This is how you guys are going to get installers.
Chris
Right.
Jack said he was going to be on in the feed tonight. Chris, if you're on there, say hello. Chris Jack is the national chair for mobile electronics installation. And Chris has been in the industry. Well, you guys met Chris. We interviewed him a few weeks back.
Yep.
He's been in the industry for more than 30 years, and he is the heart and soul of Skills USA Mobile Electronics Installation Competition. And he has been rallying the troops. And in fact, our friend Randy, I can't use his nickname, it's inappropriate, but Randy, if you're on tonight, thank you very much. He's going to participate. He works with DB Drive, the company called DB Drive, and they're going to be at Nationals with us. And a bunch of guys from Sony are going to be there. So just a lot of industry people are getting behind this, because we need, as an industry, we need fresh, young men and women to install our product with the same passion that our audience has. So it's a big deal.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to do kind of our Q&A section now. Yeah, so there we got the students in for a tour of the headquarters, and here's a couple of them standing in the studio with me, and Aaron was taking the picture. But these are bright young guys and gals who are interested in car stereo, and they have a passion for it, or they wouldn't be competing. Yeah, it was a ton of fun, and it was great to introduce them to what we do on like a daily basis here at the headquarters. We're gonna do our Q&A section, which I didn't get us any tech questions for it.
Well,
I
I'll
forgot.
make some
That's
up.
my fault. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you guys is we want to start getting you guys involved with this in this section of the show. So if you guys want to be involved, if you've ever had any tech questions, if you've ever been installing a car stereo system and you've been stumped for whatever reason, we'd love for you guys to send in and like record yourself asking a question, so we can use your phone, take a video or whatever you want to do. Record yourself asking a question and PM it to Bill on Kicker Facebook page, and we can answer. We'll play that question back on the air, and we can answer it live for you guys here. Also Instagram, message Bill on Instagram, and yeah, just reach out. We'd love to answer some questions that you guys have, or some tech questions that you guys have, and get it on the show every other week. So,
and as a team, we're all going to go through all of the entries, and we're going to choose probably 2 or 3, depending on how long they are. We're going to choose a couple or 3 of them, and we're going to, like like you said, we're actually going to play that video on the show. So whoever asked the question, you're going to see yourself on Unmasked asking the question, and then whoever's hosting is going to answer that question for you. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think
please
so.
keep it clean. This show is PG. Please keep it PG because that's the way we want to do it.
Oh, who's the guy with the iguana or the little? You know what I'm talking about? He put it in a little sweatshirt and sent us a picture of it one time. I can't remember his username. It's what? Deviant. Yeah, Deviant. We want a video of your iguana asking us a tech question.
Yes, please.
Like, that would be awesome.
That's great.
But yeah, man, just guys, have fun with it. Send us some videos with tech questions, and we'd love to answer them live on the air. I just wanted to let you guys know, and hopefully we'll see some of you on the show. Next up, what we have here.
Fail pics.
Yeah, fail pictures. Let's dig into this a little bit.
All right, Ernie, pull me up, please.
No, not you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sorry, don't zoom in on me.
All right, what do we have here? Well, first thing I see is if you ever want to be able to press your gas pedal down, you probably want to zip tie those wires, or maybe even reroute them and then zip tie them, because that is totally unsafe. You guys imagine trying to step on your gas, or even worse, your brakes to stop the car, and instead you get a wire and you pull the power wire out of your amplifier, or you short something out, and it'd just be a nightmare.
And it's not fused, of course.
No. Hashtag team no fuse.
Here's some more of that same install.
Okay, so that looks like what is that unit up there? The little, you see that silver
ECU?
box? Yeah, it looks like some sort of module. But
Look at this mess.
the crimp caps directly, like they cut the harness by accident or maybe on purpose, and then tried to like splice them back together, but they didn't leave themselves enough wire when they cut the plug to splice a new one in.
I have never done that, by the way.
It looks like that entire harness was cut. Maybe that's like a replacement harness that they had to, I don't know, man. That is very odd.
I think this is another angle of the same
Yeah,
install.
it looks like it.
What's
Yeah,
that monster thing?
I don't know.
Engine? I don't know.
I can't tell. I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, probably a better way to do this would have been to solder and heat shrink those wires individually. That way you don't have all those connectors and like exposed things going on. Now this one gets me.
What is that?
Well, what I'm looking at is the ground that is screwed in right next to the other ground. You could have put a ring terminal and used the existing ground.
I didn't have a wrench.
But yeah, that's something, man.
At least they went for a place they knew was grounded properly.
Yeah, but they didn't like scrape off any paint or anything. They just went straight to the paint. You know what I mean? That's.
So this is the Ernie special. Ernie, yeah, here we go. This is Ernie.
So this one I was trying to decipher here, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but there's like a wire that's looping from one section on the connector, going up and around to the other side. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what that goes to or why it's there. It looks like maybe a cut wire there or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I suspect it wasn't working.
Well, probably.
Oh, and this is nice. It's a new free air box.
Free air, man. You got to get the front wave and the back wave. You need all the waves.
All the waves.
It means more output, man.
And if you did perhaps seal this thing, there's still not enough airspace to breathe.
To this guy's credit, maybe it was a work in progress. Maybe he's doing like I don't know. I have no idea.
We're just being polite at this
Yeah.
point. All right, so there's the fails. Now, let's show some of the cool picks.
Yeah, cool picks, cool installs. Let's get it.
So first of all, let's show the pride and joy of our marketing activation team.
Marketing activation team?
That's Jeremy.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy and Steven.
See, I just call him Jeremy.
See, look at that. Can you? Yeah, look how beautiful. That is our new wrap.
Yeah, so if anybody is familiar with the XRV, we actually had it wrapped with a totally new wrap, and it looks freaking sweet. I love how that thing looks. Do we have more pictures of it?
We have one more, And this is actually out in Lake Havasu. If you're going to be at the Super Cat Fest with Jacob next weekend,
I'll be in Havasu next weekend for Cat Fest. So
you're going to see this.
But
you're going to experience this.
Yeah.
In fact, at dinner, Ernie was saying he won't go inside the boom room because it's too much for Ernie.
I won't go inside of it either, and that, I might be a wuss, but I'm not gonna stand in there and experience that. Props to the people to Jeremy who runs that thing all day. That's got to be loud and tiresome on your ears and your body, because how many watts did they say were in the boom room in that thing?
I think it's 40.
40,000 all in all is just.
Yeah.
It's like Bronco, comparative to the Bronco, but with much more cone area and like an entire room that you're standing in. It is crazy.
So I want to show these pictures real quick because Jacob and I were taking the tour of these Skills USA students through the building, and we went through R&D, and I had never seen this before.
Aaron, didn't we tell you on the tour no pictures in R&D?
Yes, but I work here, and so I'm allowed. So yeah, we do tell them that actually. That's true. Good point. So I turned the corner and I saw this, and it's the first time I'd seen this new display. The guys in R&D had changed up the whole box display, and it looks like the best kicker store I've ever been into. Just beautiful what they did. And here's the opposite wall. So if you turn from the right to the left, you'll see this. And wow, and one more story. So many years ago, I was in Reno, Nevada, detailing a kicker store, and the guy in the store was so passionate. He took all the kicker enclosures in the store and wired them, all of them, to 1 amp. It was an IX, a Kicker IX series 1000.1. It was our first Class D boost converter amplifier technology. So it was a small footprint, 1000-watt amplifier. So we had all the woofers in the store hooked up to it, and it was fantastic. Now, I did some math. It was about 25 watts per woofer when they were all done, because there's so many of them. But with all that cone area moving in concert, it was incredible.
Hey, Aaron, pull that picture back up real quick.
Sure.
What is that on the right side? Can we show that?
On the right side?
Yeah, on there? No, I'm just teasing you guys. I'm trying to make you think there's something secret over there, but no, I'm just messing with Aaron at this point.
Okay. All right, so back to cool pics. So this is from El Fuego. Let's start with the install. So what's the story behind this is, this was the system that was one of our winners. His system was being installed, and it took a little while to get it done. But here's the install process. Actually, no, that's not the right picture. I'm sorry, that is not a kicker amplifier. That is not a kicker amplifier.
No, that's the really nice looking, was that down for sound?
That is a down for sound.
Audio control system. That looks great though. It's really clean.
Okay, here we go. There's the kicker one. So that is a CompQ15 in a beautiful enclosure. Do you recognize that enclosure? Is that a Gately?
I don't, but I really like the grill that they made for the subwoofer. So a lot of guys using CompQs are just absolutely hungry for a grill for those things because we don't produce them anymore. So you'll see like really cool, innovative stuff like that for a grill. And I really like the bars across it. It looks clean and it matches with the lines on the box. That just looks gorgeous.
That's similar to what you and John did with the pipes.
Yeah, John used actual steel pipe.
Conduit,
or
right?
conduit, some kind of like pipe for that, but much thicker than that. But I like the thinner bars rather than the pipe. It's a stew box.
Stew box.
Way to go, Stu. That thing looks awesome.
Oh, yes, nicely done. Nicely done. So yeah, here's the rest of the system. Okay, so I was slightly misunderstanding my own pictures.
So it is that same system. It's just all that stuff you can't see with the box right there. So it's the same car and everything, which looks fantastic, man. You did a great job.
Very nice install. And thanks, Stu, for telling us about that box. It is a beautiful box. All right, so let's take some more questions.
Yeah, let's knock out the rest of them here real quick. Hey, Kicker, did you let go of your bouncer in the gray hoodie? Don't fire him. He was a good fan. Hey, so you guys are going to find out what happened to our bouncer here pretty soon. He's about to tell you guys the story himself. So.
Yeah, it's not done yet. It's still in production, but there is a story behind why Herkimer is no longer in the studio. So coming soon.
Yeah.
Good question.
He got left behind. He was on a cruise and he didn't make it back to the ship in time coming from the Canary Islands. Kicker website sells only silver Comp Q15s at 1100 RMS. I've seen a black Comp Q15 at 1200 RMS. Are these real? Great question, G-Ride, and the answer is yeah, they are real. This is actually one of those, that's the silver. So we have a new updated or refreshed version of the Comp Q coming. They do have increased power handling over the previous iteration of the Comp Qs, and they do have a really clean, sleek-looking black cone on them. So yeah, they're real. Yeah, they are coming, and they will be available very soon for you guys. So I'm glad you asked. I'm ready for them too, man. I'm ready to get those. Next question. Is 3,000 watts of clean power too much for a 15 Solo X Dual 2? Frank, probably not. But of course, it depends on your box design. But I don't think it would be too much. I mean, we've got, in the Bronco, we have one Warhorse 3600 powering each of the L7X12s in the Bronco, which they use the same motor structure and voice coil. But if they can work in the Bronco all day long at Slamology on 3,600 watts, I imagine they'll be fine on 3,000 watts of like real clean power. Of course, your box is going to contribute to that, whether you have like a sealed or ported or bandpass enclosure. But I think it'll probably be fine. But keep in mind, we do still recommend 2,000 watts RMS on the subwoofer. Yeah, you should be okay.
And have a recone kit handy.
Yeah, and have a recone kit. We do have recone kits for those subwoofers. So if you get a little bit too feisty with it, you can always replace that coil assembly and cone. So good question. Is there a key 5-channel amp coming? Stay tuned.
Next question.
Next question. Why do you not have a round PA style 6.5 inch? The answer is very simple. It's because Steve wanted a square one. And so that's why we have the ST7s and ST9s.
Yeah, that's it.
What'd you say, Ernie?
Steve wanted them square.
He just, next question. Was KX series shock setting similar to Epicenter? Any plans for a new KX series? It was similar to an Epicenter. I don't know that they operated the same necessarily, but what it would do is if you turned up your shock, it would take upper octaves of your music and then synthesize that into lower octaves for bass. So if you had like some mid bass going, it would take and drop that down an octave or two to produce or simulate sub bass. So yeah, it's kind of similar, but maybe not the exact same mechanism. And any plans for a new KX series? We have a new line of amplifiers coming soon. It's coming soon. What's the story with the Q-Class components? Any plans to make a 3-way Q-Class component set by adding a 2 3/4 inch mid? Great question, RVH. The Q-Class components, I believe, are EOL.
End of life.
End of life. So we are not producing them or selling them on the website anymore. There may be some still floating around out there on the website, or not on the website, in some stores like dealers, but I don't think there are any talks of making them into a 3-way currently, but we do listen to feedback from you guys, and if we get enough requests for a 3-way Q-Class component set or another high-quality 3-way, then we might start developing it. You never know. So just keep putting that out there that you want them, and that goes for everybody else watching this too. If you want them, send out that feedback and we'll get it going. One more question. Do you have an 8 to run in a front door and infinite baffle? I would like bass extension from 50 to 300 hertz and a couple of snowmen grafted into the same door panel. Powerful, clean mid bass is a must. Good question, Larry. So if you ask John, John uses our Comp RT8s as a mid-bass driver in his Ford Mustang. And pretty much that same frequency range, but John's the king of mid-bass, and those Comp RTs slap in his car. So that's what I would recommend. Just take one from John's book because we know it works. And we don't have like a dedicated 8-inch mid-bass driver, but the Comp RT 8 or Comp RT 6 3/4 even is going to be your best bet.
John's mid-bass will move your hair.
Yeah, it will.
That's fantastic.
All right, guys. So we talked about events. We talked about all of our...
No events, we didn't.
We didn't?
No. We got a couple events to talk about. Super Cat Fest is coming up. You're going to be there.
Yep.
That's in Lake Havasu. Cat is for catamaran, so it's a boating event in Lake Havasu. And this actually is the first time we've done this event. It's a Cat Fest West. I think you did East last year or some other version of it, right?
Oh,
in,
yeah.
the Ozarks?
Yeah. We has like some Formula One boat racing.
Oh, second year. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. So our second year. Thanks, Jeremy. He corrected me. And then the very next week is Desert Storm, which we've been doing for many years. And so Jacob's coming home, and Carlos is going out, and he's going to handle the duties, the responsibilities, the parking of the Desert Storm event. So that's 2 back-to-back weekends, or weeks actually, in Lake Havasu, Arizona. So if you're in the area, hang out. We've got a great group of guys and girls out there, huge kicker contingent, because we love doing the event. Also on Facebook, we've got a bunch of events coming up. You want to pull up my laptop again, Ernie, please? So there's Southeast Mini Truckin' National Friday. That's at Magic Valley Festival Grounds. And then Saturday, second annual We Are Not Alone car show in Fayetteville, North Carolina. If you go to our events section of our Facebook page, you'll see all of these events. We've got the Mission Texas Half Mile, Silver Dollar Short Track, so lots of motorcycle events, car stereo events, audio events, and of course Slamology is coming up in June. We're going to have a special show about Slamology. Donnie Babb is going to be in the studio again. I probably shouldn't say that now because I don't want to commit him if he doesn't want to be here. But go to our Facebook. There's a lot of events coming up, and we'd love to have you guys and girls hang out with us.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys know what we got to do at the end of the show. We got to do our prize giveaways for all those who entered the contest. Bill, let's get that third place prize winner popped up here, and let's get the prizes going. So
Hey, my laptop's still up. Whoop, whoop.
Start doing some tricks with the mouse.
There we are.
All right, let's see what we got. Any prizes?
Third place is, what's third place winner? EB400s.
Yep, EB400s, koozie, some
2
other stuff, right?
koozies, and a t-shirt, UnMasked t-shirt.
Yeah, cool.
So third place winner, waiting for Mr. Bill Braun Frog. Shall we do...
James M. James M is the third place winner. Does not say where he's from, but usually it says where they're from.
Oh, James M, you didn't say where you're from. But you're the winner, James M, from
Congrats,
nowhere.
James. You get the EB400s and some other swag. Let's, let's look at the second prize winner. And we have Christopher A. from Louisiana. Congrats, Chris. You get the TW2s, our new true wireless earbuds that are kind of like AirPods. They've got a little charging pack, and you get several hours of use out of them. I used them on plane flights. They work great. And you also get some koozies and a t-shirt and all that swag that you've come to know and love from us. And finally, the first place winner for the BF100. Who do we have? Jamila R. from Maryland. Congratulations.
Woohoo, woohoo.
So you get our Bullfrog 100, which is a waterproof, Bluetooth-capable speaker. Sounds fantastic. It floats. And you can take it to the river, the pool, whatever you want to do. You also get the same swag, koozies, t-shirts, stuff like that. So congratulations on the prizes, guys. Hope you enjoy them. And thanks for tuning in. If you guys want to go check out the after show with Andy, he's got that going tonight. Living Loud with Andy is his YouTube channel, and he kind of is going to touch on things we talked about and a lot of other stuff. So tune in, and you and Andy are going to have a great time. And be sure to like and subscribe and join the Kicker Club on the Facebook group. And our next UnMasked show is going to be April 30th, again on a Tuesday, so be sure and tune in for that. And we'll see you guys there. Have a great night.
Good night.